Copyright. Hey, Mr. Godoy, he copied me. As a teacher, I've heard this phrase so many times. I bet you've heard this phrase a few times too. Or maybe you even said it to one of your teachers. In the case of my students, it's usually not a matter of copying, but rather two good brains just happen to come up with the same good idea. But this example goes to show how much we care about giving credit and protecting ownership of our ideas. Our society has even created laws to protect people's ideas. They are called copyright laws. And that is the subject of our lesson today. I want to teach you that we all are responsible for obeying copyright laws, and it's important to know what those laws are. Copyright refers to the legal rights to an original work. These laws set the conditions under which anyone may copy in whole or part original works transmittable in any medium. What does that mean? That means if you like a Beyoncé song, you can't copy the lyrics or the music to one of her songs and call it your own song. You can't even copy the first half, just the middle, or just the last half of the song and call it your song. You can't even copy the words to her song into a story you are writing or onto a canvas you are painting. Copyright is there to protect the financial interests of creators, producers, and distributors of original works. What does that mean? That means if you copy a superhero in a comic book that you are drawing or a YouTube channel that you are filming from a Marvel comic, then the writers, publishers, and people that sell Marvel comics won't be able to make as much money when they try to do the same thing. You will have stolen their ideas, and some people will be just as happy to buy or view your version of that superhero. So they will not want to pay for a Marvel comic or pay to see a Marvel comic movie. Technology, especially the internet, has made it easier to copy from a variety of digital materials: text, visuals, audio, and video. What does that mean? That means with a computer, you can easily copy text from a story you find on the internet by copying and pasting it into a story you are writing. You can also search Google for a picture you need and pretend that you took the picture yourself. You can even add a video from YouTube to a class project and say that it's a family video. The Copyright Act of 1976 contains both criminal and civil sanctions. Possible fines for copyright infringement range from $750 to $30,000 per infringement. If it can be proven that the law was broken by willful intent, the fines may be raised to $150,000. Willful infringement for private or commercial gain carries a possible fine of $250,000 and up to 5 years in prison. Copyright violation is a serious crime, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. What does that mean? That is like if your dad did not see a speed limit sign and drove faster than the law allowed for that road. A police officer could still give him a speeding ticket for driving too fast, even if your dad did not know he was going too fast. But don't worry, your dad will only get a speeding ticket. He would not go to jail for driving too fast in his brand new car, but he would definitely be pretty mad. But in the case of copyright laws, the fines and penalties could be raised if the law could prove that you knew you were copying someone else's words, songs, or movie and tried to make money from that. Fair use provides an important copyright exception for teachers and students. Small portions of copyrighted works may be used in teaching when properly cited and noted that the materials are copyrighted and by whom. Copyright laws provide 4 rules for deciding what is fair use: purpose and character of use, nature of copyrighted work, the amount or the portion of work used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole, the effect of the use on potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. What does that mean? That means that you could use a couple of lines of a Beyoncé song if you were doing a presentation for class, because the lyrics of her song are not something sold in the school supply section of Walmart or in the education section of Barnes& and Noble's bookstore. Plus, you're not going to use the entire song, and your use of the song is not going to impact Beyoncé's record sales. You plan to use her song lyrics for a school presentation and not to sell something you made. Also, you made sure to credit Beyoncé somewhere in your presentation to tell everyone that she made up the lyrics to the song and you did not. Besides following the laws of fair use, you may also use copyrighted materials if you gain permission from the holder of the copyright and pay a fee for the rights to use the copyrighted material. When seeking this type of permission, you should ask to gain permission from the distributor or publisher of the copyrighted material and not the creator. Also, be as specific as possible. Remember that fees for the reproduction of copyrighted materials are sometimes negotiable. If for some reason you decide not to use the requested materials, make sure that this fact is known to the publisher or producer. And also, keep copies of all your correspondences. What does that mean? That means you could also call Marvel Comics and tell them about a project you are doing in class. You could ask them if you could use one of their superheroes in your presentation or project. You would contact Marvel Comics, the company, but you would not contact Stan Lee, the writer and artist that created a lot of the characters from the Marvel Comics. You would also have to make sure that you asked Marvel Comics for exactly what you wanted to use in your project. You could even haggle the price you wanted to pay, like what your mom and dad do when they buy a new car. Also, remember, if you change your mind and decide not to use the superhero after all, you should contact Marvel Comics and tell them. Also, keep all your letters and emails you send Marvel Comics. That way, you remember what you asked from them and what they said to you. Copyright law was changed by the Sonny Bono Copyright Term Extension Act of 1998. For an individual creator of work, the copyright protection extends 70 years after that person dies. For commissioned work, the copyright extends 100 years after the creation of the work, or 75 years from the date of first publication or distribution. Works copyrighted prior to January 1st, 1978 are protected for 28 years, and then they may have their copyright renewed. This renewal protects them for a term of 75 years after their original copyright date. What does that mean? That means just because Stan Lee died, his artwork and his stories are not free for everyone to use now. His work is still protected by copyright law. You still have to follow fair use rules when using characters or stories from Marvel Comics, or contact Marvel Comics and ask permission to use one or more of their superheroes in your school presentation. Even after copyright has run out, the new owners of the copyright, Stan Lee's artworks and stories, can ask for a copyright renewal, so you still cannot use his artwork or stories without permission. Also, you cannot change the format of copyrighted materials. What does that mean? That means you cannot take a VHS copy of a Marvel comic book movie and convert it to a digital movie file for your schoolwork or presentation. This is still breaking copyright laws. Do not break copyright law. So remember, copyright laws protect people's ideas. Those ideas can come in the form of pictures on the internet, lyrics of a song, or characters in a movie. If you want to use someone else's ideas, make sure that you are following the rules of fair use and you are giving that person credit for the work they did and their ideas. We are all responsible for obeying copyright laws. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So remember, if you are copying part of someone else's work, make sure that you are copying right. Copyright. We're excited